Hello and welcome to The Hash. It is Tuesday, September 7th. Kind of feels like Monday, so we're just going to approach it that way. All sorts of stuff is happening today. It's crazy all of a sudden. So let's get going on this thing. Nate, start us off. What's happening in the markets?
Yeah, Zach, everything is down. So in the it's a sea of
That's
red
one
out
way
there.
to put it.
So right now, Bitcoin
Just
is hovering around 46,700. It's down around a little over 9%. It's down in the last 24 hours. It did hit a low of 42,900, and then ETH is down around 12.5%. In the last 24 hours. It's at 3,400 now, and it hit a low of around 3,000 earlier. So I wanted to throw it to Will. What is going on? What's happening in the markets right now that we're seeing this kind of sea of red?
Yeah, it's merely my wisdom that's being played out right now. You buy low and you sell high, and people are selling high here, and so I'm pretty impressed that they're following my line of logic there. Now, just like I guess taking a larger step back, like I don't think anyone here on the show is necessarily a markets expert, but just from like being involved in the ecosystem for the last 3-4 years, you kind of notice that there's very similar trends and happenings. So people see that news comes on and they get really excited about it. Maybe it was just El Salvadorian news that the company or the country buying Bitcoin and becoming legal tender in that country. And there's a big buildup to that moment. The price goes up, and then it happens. People get a little bored. Right? It's a TikTok age. And then it collapses in price, and we get blood on the streets, as I say. Bitcoin's price crashed about 10 grand within just a few hours, or even less than that, a few minutes. Huobi, the exchange, saw the price even dip below 40,000, and that affects everything else in the markets too. Like Ethereum is just as connected with Bitcoin, and all these other coins are just connected with Bitcoin in the same manner. And so when you see that happen, you see just a cascade of liquidations occur across all these other platforms. So decentralized finance, which you just saw a tweet up I threw earlier today, just talking about liquidations on those platforms. And so there was about $155 million of liquidations across the DeFi landscape, which of course is a really, really young market. But to see liquidations of that level just means that everyone was kind of pumping into the market, given that Bitcoin's price seemed to be rebounding from its April highs and then May lows. So I think it's just like kind of the same story over and over again. I think the bigger question people are curious about is this just like a momentary setback, or is there more to come over September, which traditionally has not been a very good month for Bitcoin's price? Zach, I'm going to throw it to you.
Yeah, I wanted to bump it to Nate, actually. Just wondering if some of the macro issues in the market are potentially to blame for this one. Are you seeing this as Bitcoin being correlated to other assets in the world, or is this indeed one of these crypto cycles that we see in cycles?
Yeah, Zach, I think that this is something that is probably more like crypto related. I kind of agree with Will here that I think this is related to like some profit taking off of like the El Salvador news and whatnot. People kind of like assuming a run up and wanting to take advantage of that before everyone else. Crypto sometimes reacts in a small way to like macroeconomic news, but like in this past like Friday when we had like when the U.S. had a bad jobs report, it actually bumped up a little bit in response to USD weakness. So this is kind of complete market dip, I think, is something where people were assuming that the El Salvador news was just going to be good news upon like other good news kind of thing for Bitcoin.
It's very cryptocurrency. Go ahead, Zach. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I think like the thing that you said, Will, is like very spot on, right? Like, things still are largely correlated to Bitcoin, right? I mean, we sort of have seen momentum of these coins establishing their own momentum, but when it comes down to it, like the entire market, I think is really wedded to the fate of Bitcoin, and we're seeing that across the market with like other, superstars of the last month. Solana is down sharply. Ethereum, which has been, the star of the show, is down sharply. So it's interesting to see this happen in concert. But yeah, back to you, Will. I didn't mean to step on you.
No, I was just going to make a quick, not funny joke that, it makes sense Bitcoin's price goes up on Friday when there's job reports are bad. It just seems to be like the way things swing in the cryptocurrency market. I'm wondering about the JPEG market. Like that's a very illiquid market, and wondering where the price floor for all these tokens went. Kind of interesting to kind of think about that. At the same time, though, a lot of NFT markets are priced in Ether and they're not really priced in dollars. So maybe things didn't change like a ton just because that market ecosystem is kind of moving its own way. But Jen, we got to get you in on the NFT game. So that's why I segue there. Tell us.
Well,
You're looking.
What's your question? Tell me the question.
No, I just want to hear your thoughts. I just want to hear your wisdom on the NFT market.
Well, I don't know if I have any wisdom to share on the NFT market right now. We are going to talk about NFTs later in the show. I wanted to ask you, though, Will, there's a lot of beginners and newcomers who've come to the space this year as all the headlines we've been talking about on this show since February have come out, and they've been waiting for a chance to get into crypto at a viable time. And now we've seen a substantial dip. Is this the right time for beginners to get into the market if they're educated and they know what they're doing, or do you think they should wait?
I have a perfect tweet for this. I wish I could throw it out, but
do it.
No, I can't. It's just throw out, shout out to Ledger Status.
You have to act out the tweet.
Act out the tweet. No, Ledger Status is a really good trader, and he said yesterday, like, you can't dollar cost average your way into a Bitcoin bull market. Like, you're not going to make it that way. Sorry, it's just not how it works. So I would say, like, only spend what you can. Don't be foolish. That's not financial advice. But Zach,
wise words from Will.
Thank you.
Thanks, Will. Thank you, Will. Appreciate that. We'll change gears right now. It all is happening on the day that El Salvador's Bitcoin law is going into effect. I can't say that I'm not entertained. The timing of this is quite tremendous. So El Salvador announced in early June that it was going to be making Bitcoin legal tender in the country. That went live today. We have this phenomenon of President Bukele tweeting as though he is Michael Saylor and rallying the Bitcoin bulls to buy the dip, to save this plan. It's quite striking to watch. That's all I have to say on the matter. Really interesting to see this stuff start to be spun up. We've already seen a bit of viral tweet love around a payment integration with McDonald's in the country, which was able to accept payment over the Lightning Network in what was later disclosed to be a tie-up with OpenNode, which is a Lightning firm. Other service providers are also rushing in the space to usher in this new era of Bitcoin as legal tender in El Salvador. So the market is certainly watching that today, as is the greater world. This is a big story that has captivated a lot of people's attention over the summer, and for it to come to fruition on the day in which the markets appear to be tanking quite sharply really is something. Always something in this space. Really interesting to watch. I'm going to throw this to you, Will. Aside from the timing in terms of El Salvador and market activity in the Bitcoin world, what stands out to you as this thing goes live?
Just welcome to Bitcoin, El Salvador. This is how it goes. Like, your first entrance in, you get punched right in the teeth. So if you can't handle it, then I guess walk right back out. That's just kind of how the way this market works. I think in general it is hilarious that he said, like, we're going to buy the dip. Did not see that coming. Did not seeing a president of a country tweeting that ever, but it happened today. Also noting the OpenNode integration with McDonald's. That was really fascinating. Someone else had a really great tweet this morning about how all these exchanges in the cryptocurrency world have refused to add Lightning to their protocol stack, but McDonald's did it before them. I think if Naomi was on the show today, we would kind of note that the reason a lot of these businesses are adding Bitcoin to their payment flows is because they're legally obligated to do so. So I think El Salvador is going to be like a really interesting case study when we're looking at Bitcoin adoption, because it's like legally enforced as opposed to a voluntary way that it's been kind of pushed beforehand. Like, everyone's kind of been like, hey, go and add OpenNode, or go and add something that allows you to take Bitcoin payments. But in El Salvador, you have to do it. So it'd be interesting to see who is working with the Salvadorian government or businesses down there, like who chooses to interact with them and kind of help them get off on their feet. Those are my only thoughts. I'm going to throw it down to you, Jen.
Yeah, I'm so divided on this, because we're getting this like interesting peek into the future where McDonald's is accepting Bitcoin, and we're seeing we've seen something play out over the last 3 months in a really, rapid fashion. Like we just learned the other day that this was going to come to fruition, and here it is, the big day. What's interesting to me, Zach, Will and Zach, you mentioned that it's now businesses are now legally obligated to accept Bitcoin. But didn't the president tweet like last week that that businesses don't have to? So I'm just looking for some clarity there. It's unclear if they have to accept Bitcoin or if they don't have to accept Bitcoin, and it's still really sad that this is juxtaposed against the protests that we talked about last week. We're peering into the future, but the people seem like they're not completely sold on it. And I just really would love to see more education there. And I would love to see the people of El Salvador actually be excited about this. And I don't think that we've seen that yet.
No, I mean, we've seen some of the optionality come to the fore, right? We've seen it in a series of salty tweets. We've seen President Bukele suggest that, hey, this is optional. If you want to go to Western Union and pay a bunch of fees on your cross-border payments, hey, by all means, go for it. So he's pulled back, I think, some of the mandatory enforcement aspects, but it's certainly codified in law as something that is going to be required of the nation's merchants. And that's why we're seeing a lot of activity around adoption. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's really an interesting case study in like governance, right? We talk about governance as this pie in the sky crypto thing, often in the world of DeFi. But here we have an actual government making governance decisions around the future of finance in a country that has long been impoverished and has long had challenges. And for this to have been rolled out in short order, the way it has been rolled out with this splashy, glitzy announcement at a major Bitcoin conference in June to now today, it going live as law in this country, I think to me reflects a lot of that sort of consensus building may not have been done adequately. And I think that's why you're seeing these polls reflect that in terms of public sentiment. Nate, really curious for your thoughts on the El Salvador situation before we take a quick break.
Yeah, one point as to why this is probably very sensitive for a lot of El Salvadorians is that when it comes to countries and like international economics, generally you have this issue called the impossible trinity, where you can have only 2 out of the 3, like a fixed exchange rate, free capital flows, so like no tariffs or whatnot, and independent monetary policy. And you got to give up one of those in order to have the other 2. And so here for so long, El Salvador has given up their independent monetary policy because they've been on the U.S. dollar. So they've always been dependent on whatever the U.S. Federal Reserve does in terms of setting interest rates. So here, there was an option, like Spain had kind of indicated that it wanted its central bank digital currency to be an independent currency, to kind of be something that would be separate from the euro. So like El Salvador had that option possibly, in digital assets and whatnot, and instead just decided to go with Bitcoin, which is, its own kind of, there's all discussion about whether or not it can serve as a means of payment. So that's kind of the reason why people are going to feel very strongly about this move and the change in the country.
Lots to watch today. We can watch it all unfold on crypto Twitter. Let's take a quick break. We're going to pause the hash. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about FTX US, Sam Bankman-Fried's US crypto exchange, getting into the NFT market. We think the NFT market is still booming, but it's going to be curious to see what happens after today. Interesting move by FTX US to get more involved in NFTs. Stick with us. It's the hash. We'll talk about that and some other stuff right after this break.
Hello, everyone. You are watching The Hash, where we bring you the latest and greatest in crypto. So our next story of the day has a lot of acronyms. SBFs. FTX has launched an NFT minting platform. So Sam Bankman-Fried, the billionaire behind FTX, tweeted, "Make your own NFTs" yesterday with the link to the platform and a fire flame emoji. Later on, he said, due to the massive number of submissions, too many of which were just a picture of a fish, that they would be charging a one-time $500 fee to submit NFTs. Now, a lot going on here. I love SBF. I don't know if a $500 one-time fee addresses some of the barriers that we've spoken about on the show, but I'm sure it is a deterrent for people minting pictures of fishes as NFTs. Will, I'm going to throw this. Okay, Zach, take it away.
I really want to take it. Can we get the test image? Can I get the test image back on the screen control? All right. I heard this morning that this image right here sold for $270,000 US. That is right, folks. That is some crazy stuff. Maybe that was the pin that pricked the NFT bubble. Who knows? But it is interesting to see that an exchange itself is wanting to get into this. Hey, who knows? Maybe Coinbase could get into NFTs and either offer minting or the listing of them at some future point in time. So interesting to see FTX ride this wave. That is pretty crazy. That sold for $207,000. So I'm just going to say that. And then
it's
Will,
insane.
You got it.
Yeah, I actually have a different take. I think it's kind of crazy that FTX took so long to get a minting program on their website.
Mm-hmm.
For years, FTX has been the first to the spot. Like every single time you wanted something. And the first thing that caught my eye with them back in like 2019 was they had a something called a shitcoin perpetual index, which is you could buy a basket of coins that nobody wanted and you could trade them. And they made like this really innovative product around something that nobody wanted to be a part of. And for years, that's how they made their bread and butter. And that's what catapulted them to take on the Binances of the world. And yet we're into our second JPEG season here. And now they have something? Zach, I didn't hear your response though.
To be fair, Will, they've been really busy on other things.
I mean,
Sure.
I just love how Will's like, for years, as if this isn't a company that's like less than 2 years old. So that to me is hilarious. For years, they've been doing this.
2 years.
Founded in 2019. 2 years, man. You're showing your crypto age. Anyway, I'm throwing it back to you.
No, I think that's a very fair comment. They've always been on top of it. But I think as things kind of progress, you get a little slower. It's hard to get things done. No shade on FTX. They're still like dominant, obviously. You know, Sam doesn't need anyone's good or bad opinions about him. He's laughing all the way to the bank. But at the same time, it is interesting to see like we're at the second JPEG season and now they're launching a minting program. I thought this would have been like already on the platform by now. That's my only thought. Secondly, kind of moving over to JPEG prices. If we can throw that tweet up, that'd be pretty sick. Just looking at prices all around are just dead. Oh, no worries. I'll just read it off to you guys. So Axie's Infinity is down 75% on the day. Loot is down 30%. The Doge Pound is down 25%. Kind of just go down the list. Everything is down on JPEGs, but it's a little bit more severe than Bitcoin, which makes sense. Zach, your thoughts?
Yeah, I remember asking this question to somebody. It was like an event last summer. I'm like, why are NFTs like all of a sudden like a thing? And it's like, yeah, it's just a spillover from like a frothy general market in crypto. And I think that law still holds, right? It's not necessarily, oh, wow, well, first of all, NFTs aren't a new and novel thing. They've been around for a number of years longer than FTX itself has been around. So the idea that NFTs blew up as this new and novel thing wasn't true. The idea that NFTs are a function of frothy crypto markets more broadly as people have coins to play with, I think that seems to be holding in good times and bad. And I think Will's point there sets that pretty clear. But yep.
Will, you brought up Binance in your earlier comment, and I just wonder, with all of the FTX news and all of the Binance news, is FTX going to take that throne from Binance, do we think? I mean, I know we're not future fortune tellers, but
the way I think about it is, yes, like they could, but there's always like someone who comes in with the new tide, and then it seems like the regulators drag them back out to sea. So like it was BitMEX, then they kind of got attacked, and then now we got Binance. Same thing's happening with Binance right now. They're getting a lot of regulatory pressure. And my instinct says, hey, when does that happen to FTX? And then who's the new kid on the block later? Doesn't mean BitMEX went away. Like they're still around. but they're definitely not the top market anymore for Bitcoin trading. Throw to you, Nate.
Yeah, it's important to remember that FTX, even though they have a huge presence in the U.S., they're based in Hong Kong. So, like, at what point does like issues around the national security law and whatnot, like, and issues where China is like against crypto, like, when does that come into play?
Yeah, definitely. I'm with you on that one.
Have to wait and see.
We'll just have to wait and see. But let's
All right,
move over.
Let's wait and see
to the world of Polkadot. Okay, we're gonna wrap it up with a little bit of a slower story, but I think it is important because this is like a recap story. So the former director of Libra has joined the Polkadot team, specifically the Web3 Foundation. Bertrand Perez, who's the former COO of the DM project, which was also called Libra beforehand, and then they did like a little rebrand refresh after getting their teeth kicked in front of Congress. He has now joined the Web3 Foundation, which is helping to build out the Polkadot blockchain. Of course, there's a lot of names here, so I apologize. But the Polkadot blockchain is a Web3 project to bring decentralized money to the internet, very similar in scope to Ethereum or any smart contract-based platform. He said that he decided to resign from the DM project because they are increasingly focused on the US market and they need to comply with US regulations. And his background does not permit that, as he is more dealt with Swiss regulations. And it makes sense for him to go to the Web3 Foundation, which more so than not does operate in that kind of Berlin, Switzerland hacker scene. So kind of like a smooth transition there from his perspective, but it is interesting to see another nail in the coffin for DM. Zach, I want to throw it over to you to talk about that.
Yeah, really interesting, like super interesting signal for both of these projects, right? So DM has seen an exodus of, top leadership, right? We have Dante Disparte, who was a key figure in Libra/DM from its inception. He left for Circle earlier this year. Now Bertram going to Polkadot is another interesting signal that, it's kind of that's a project that is losing steam a little bit as it inches toward an actual launch that we've still yet to see from DM. So interesting that that's occurring on that side. On the Polkadot side, I think this is a really interesting addition to their team. The fact that they, have captured a lot of excitement just around their asset itself, DOT, without a ton to show from it on the tech end. They're still sort of in the process of working through the parachain auctions, which go through the Canary the Canary network, Kusama, and then they go to the main stage, Polkadot, at some future date. So a lot of excitement around this network, a lot of excitement around this base layer. For them to add a heavyweight from the world of DM is actually kind of an interesting signal in terms of how they see the opportunity unfolding before them, right? I wouldn't necessarily think, former DM guy to Polkadot, but it's an interesting sort of glimpse into how they're staffing up to embrace this future that's before them. So super interesting signal for both these projects, absolutely.
Yeah, Will, I had to add on as a final nail in the coffin for DM. This is kind of like I could see how someone kind of being at DM and waiting for U.S. regulators to provide a little bit more of context around stablecoins and guidance on stablecoins could get pretty kind of bored. The U.S. Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell, is like, we were going to have a stablecoin report at the beginning of the summer or in the middle of the summer, and now it's like coming sometime in September. So everything kind of in terms of the government's addressing digital assets has kind of been pushed off. Promises about like it coming earlier, and I could see both with the crackdown on stablecoins that currently exist and the kind of like scrutiny that's applied there. And waiting for the Fed and other regulators to actually like provide some sort of like guidance, it could be very frustrating for anyone that's at a stablecoin project that hasn't launched yet right now.
Yeah, I guess I'll push back a little bit. I don't think this is the final nail in the coffin of DM. I think we're going to see DM launch in some form. It's going to be greatly scaled back from its initial ambition. Like in retrospect, its initial ambition was quite ambitious. It had all these crazy assets in this basket that was to provide stability, but that was significantly curtailed because there was fears on the part of global regulators that they would become sort of the de facto currency that would, strip central bankers of all their levers to pull in the economy. Zuck bucks. So anyway, it won't be Zuck bucks, but I think DM will launch. But I don't know. Yeah, it's definitely been a hard row to hoe for that team. So anyway, we'll take it.
Yeah, I got one question. I'm glad that I got you two on the show. This is like the dream team to talk about DM. Why have they been so slow to roll out a stablecoin backed only by a basket of dollars when Circle and Coinbase have been doing that for about a year or two now? And that project has taken off and it's been fine. I mean, are they just really worried about securities coming, or the SEC coming after them? And they're like, hey, we're not going to touch this until we get a little bit more regulatory clarity. And by that time, does it not matter?
I mean, yeah, they keep saying, hey, we're committed to making sure this is compliant. Like in the meantime, they're getting lapped, right? You know, I think when we first covered Celo, which is a proof of stake blockchain network, Celo was sort of seen as Libra without Facebook. And Celo recently launched like an incentive program, getting like Sushi Swap and Pool Together like onto that platform to make this vision of mobile native payments easy, fast, cheap, and accessible. The fact that, you know, they're sort of like doing that while Facebook and Libra, well, I know Facebook and Libra they do not equal each other. But, you know, while they've been just, again, licking their wounds, they took a real beating, right? They were like the meat shield so that Bitcoin and other projects could thrive while other regulators beat up on Zuck. So yeah, they're the meme. We should do that meme for them. Like the crouch soldier meme is Libra, and then Libra went away, and then they had something else to pick a fight with. But anyway, the slow going and the, hey, we want to do this compliantly, it may pay off in the long run. Maybe they're playing the long game, but for now it looks like they're definitely getting lapped. Jen, I want your thoughts. Close this out.
I mean, I think they're playing the slow game because maybe they have a lot more to lose, and maybe I'm choosing the wrong words there, but Facebook has an entirely different business that they need to uphold and run, and they're just getting into the financial space. They're not a financial company, and so it kind of makes sense to me that they're playing it safe here and have been so slow, and I don't think it's going to benefit them in the long run, but it makes sense to me.
They do have elections to overthrow, so they're pretty busy.
They're busy.
DOT is active to top it off.
Wow.
Just kidding.
Wow. I will not segue that.
Will
that is some
with
craziness.
the
All right. Cool. Well, we're going to wrap it there. Everybody stay safe out there. Red day in the markets. A lot of interesting things to watch. Certainly stick with us on CoinDesk.com for all the latest in market news today. That is it for The Hash. I'm Zach Seward. We have Nate DiCamillo. We have Jen Sanasi. We have Will Foxley. I bet we're going to do it again tomorrow, and it's going to be great. Stick with us on CoinDesk TV later today, 3 p.m. Eastern, all about Bitcoin. And then check out that first Maruvu show to start your day tomorrow. Till then, we'll be making news, and we'll talk to you later. All right. Cool. See you.
See ya.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.